I'm Tanisha LaVerne, reporting live from the red carpet at the IMAX Theater in Long Beach, California, for the premiere of a brand new film, a true story about Brian Banks, a young man who at the age of 16 was falsely convicted of rape and spent 11 years in the California prison system. All right, this is Tanisha LaVerne live on the red carpet in Long Beach, California, for the film premiere of an amazing, powerful story. The story of Brian Banks, who is standing with me today. You are the subject of this powerful film. Talk to me a little bit about your journey, being exonerated, some of those first moments when you realized that you were definitely going to be incarcerated. It just never ends. Black men in the criminal justice system wrongfully accused for a crime they didn't commit.
Yeah, it has definitely been a journey, an unexpected journey when it all took place. Being a 16-year-old kid, being kidnapped from my home, from my family, and being put into custody and charged with crimes that I didn't commit, and ultimately convicted of it. Just a really tragic experience that I think, I wish no one had to go through, but all too familiar we do go through it, people of color in particular.
It really speaks to your inner strength. I saw the film. Aldis Hodge did an amazing job portraying you. I pretty much wept the entire time. I could barely contain myself. What did you tap into? You know what I mean? You had to have tapped into something, a higher power, to have sustained everything that you had to go through and to come out on this side at such a young age.
Like anything mastered, it takes time and practice. The moment you realize no one will work harder for you than you for the things that you want in life, you start to prioritize your life and figure out, the things that you don't control and the things you can control.
The gentleman who was kind of like your spirit guide in the film, who was portrayed by Morgan Freeman, have you been in contact with him since? I know in the movie he's there and then he's gone.
He'll actually be here tonight. It's still my mentor to this day.
So when you were exonerated, going through that process, what was that like? Just being, you had to self-advocate. Nobody was really advocating for you.
Yeah, it was a journey. Like I said, going back to just knowing what I wanted from me and knowing that no one would work harder for me than me. I had to fight for my own freedom, and I guess in a way to prove to other people that I was in fact innocent. And luckily, I kept fighting because it paid off. Well, without giving away the movie, Facebook played a really huge part in getting down to the bottom of what actually happened 10 years ago in my life, when I was contacted by the person who, falsely accused me of the crimes. So it was very surreal to receive that message. Was in disbelief when I received it, but so thankful that it happened because that got the ball rolling to get me free.
Talk to me a little bit about some of the nonprofit organizations that you were involved with.
So I sit on the advisory board of the California Innocence Project, the same firm that helped exonerate me. I'm also on the advisory board of the National Registry of Exoneration. So I am trying to do what I can to be a part of the change, everything to me to turn back around and reach into that dark hole to pull out other people in similar situations.
What would you like to say to anyone who's watching, a mother, a father, a sister, or brother who has a family member that's incarcerated and they just seem like they've lost hope? What do you want to say to those people?
That you should be empowered, that you have to be self-empowered. The things that you want in life, you have to first put them into the world in order to get it back. So if you there's a lot of stuff that we will never have control over. You may not have control over when you want to get out and how fast they get to the truth, but how you deal with yourself in that moment, how you allow the experience to affect you, and how much effort you put into bettering yourself and being above what they're trying to accuse you and label you as, I think should be your main focus while in an uncontrolled experience that you have no control over.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All the best.
Yeah,
Thank you. So this is an amazing project. It's very powerful. Heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, actually.
Have you seen the movie?
I have seen the movie.
Okay.
I wept the entire time. When did you decide to come on board with this project?
So Brian and I were having a conversation that I didn't even know we were having before we met. A film that I had written and directed called Aquila and the Bee found its way into Brian's prison cell.
I love Aquila and the Bee. You guys know Aquila and the Bee with Keke Palmer, Lawrence Fishburne. It was amazing. Yeah.
So he saw the film. When I met with him in Amy Baer's office, she's the producer that bought Brian's life rights. when they were talking about writers to potentially tell his story, my name came up, and he remembered my film, and it led to this conversation that we had. I knew his story because I'd gone to USC. He'd been recruited by USC. I remembered seeing his story on the news. Somebody close to me had gone through something similar to what he'd gone through. So we had that as a basis to start talking and building trust. And as we got to know each other, he felt comfortable with me being the person to tell his story. And that led to a series of conversations. I have about 12 hours of video that I shot of him telling his whole story, and that became my Bible for telling it.
When you look at the final product, like what resonates with you? Like when you sit and you watch it?
What resonated with me was all that emotion that Brian represents and that Brian conveys. It was in the movie. And all the people I was sitting with in the audience were feeling those things.
Lonnie Love, how are you doing tonight?
I am excellent. I'm so excited to be here at the Brian Banks movie. To support Sherri and all the other actors. I actually have a radio show, Cafe Mocha Radio. I actually interviewed Brian Banks about the movie. Really nice young man, and a very moving story. I'm just glad they finally were able to get it out. People that are incarcerated wrongfully have to understand that they have to not give up hope, that they have to continue to understand that there are going to be people that are going to come in and out of their life to help them. That's why this movie is so important, because it's another example of someone that is wrongly accused, but it's also an example of people that believed in them and didn't forget about them. And we cannot forget about those people. That's why criminal justice reform is very, very important. And this is just another example of it.
When did you know that you are going to be cast as Brian Banks, and what resonated with you when you got the call for this role?
So the audition process was probably about 2 or 3 weeks. I went in twice in that time frame. And honestly, for me, the moment that I knew that I had the audition for it was very important to me because I knew the story, and I understood the potential for efficacy and influence when it came to Brian's story, because it's one of real triumph. I mean, this is a brother who falsely accused of something, but he went into prison. He educated himself on the legal system. He came out smarter than when he went in. He fought for himself. He never gave up. He still managed to, he freed himself, which is the biggest, and then he managed to still achieve his dreams. NFL, book, movie, like how, in what other world do you turn the opportunity of martyrdom into so much? You know, he's such an inspiration. I just wanted to be an asset to telling his story on his journey, and I'm really glad that they allowed me to be a part of it. I'll say that Brian definitely held my hand through the whole thing. He was there. He was present every day on set. We talked every day. We worked out in the gym almost every single day. We were like tied at the hip. Any question I had, whenever I wanted to take him through his dark past to help me figure out where to be at, he was open and willing. So he really went through a lot going through the process of making this film, because he had to relive it all again. I thank Brian first for the opportunity of being able to embody this role, but I also thank him for the performance that I was able to give, because without him, it would not have been what it is.
Question: what do you want to say to family members who are waiting for their loved ones to come home?
You know, it's a problem. We have, we have 2 million people in prison in this country, and, through DNA, through cases like Brian, we know that some percentage of these are wrongly accused, and people that need to, that are being kind of swept up in a system that's broken, and it's something that we should all be talking about more.
I've never seen you portray somebody that I could not stand.
Really?
I did not like it.
That's good. Well,
Can you have an ounce of compassion, bro?
he had a little bit. He did, but he made a little turn.
Yeah, but it was rough. But you know what?
That's kind of how these guys are, though. Like, and in their defense, to get through the day, you have to. They sometimes have to put up a wall and not get attached to the people they're working with, because you don't know if they're going to end up back in jail. And the odds are, unfortunately, the way the system is set up, we do end up right back. I just know that with my faith in God, I know that it always comes out in the wash, and Brian is a perfect example of that, because he's a man who walks through the world with grace, no malice, and at the end of the day, if you hold malice and hold anger towards someone, it only hurts you. It doesn't hurt them.
So let's talk about you playing his mom, because
It was, when I saw the script and I saw how strong Leomi was, and I met Leomi, she's just like a quiet, understated woman, and she didn't think that she did anything special except love her son. And I went, are you kidding me? That was like the foundation for everything. That was why Brian was sane. She drove 3.5 hours to prison, 3.5 hours back, wrote him a letter every day, saw him every other week for the entire time he was incarcerated. This woman believed in him when nobody else did. So to hear about that relationship, I was just honored to tell her side of the story.
Sherri, you have a son, a young son.
Jeffrey, he's 14 years old, and looking at him, he could easily be Brian Banks, and so that was what drew me to it, because Leomi's fight for her son, and I have to fight for my son because he was born at 5.5 months, a pound 10 ounces. I've always had to advocate for Jeffrey, so it kind of mirrored hers a little bit. Well, I know Leomi stayed strong for her son, even though she was breaking down. She made sure she stayed strong and positive, because sometimes the only positive they will get is you. And she made sure she did that. And I think another thing is really we got to work on changing this judicial system. We really do. It's let our kids down, and God forbid you get that phone call, your worst nightmare, that your child has been picked up by the police and there's nothing that you can do. So we need to make sure that all of these officials who've been in office a long time, we got to hold them accountable.
Sherri, talk to the audience about why they need to go see this film.
Well, number one, in order for our stories to continue being told, Hollywood operates on one thing and one thing alone, and that is the green money. And if Hollywood does not see that our stories don't make them money, they will not make the stories, because they'll go back to stereotypical stuff because they think that is what sells. So we have to go and support our stories in order for other stories of ours to be told. We got so many, but so many people have told the stories of their Holocaust. We have ours. We do, and this is like, we need to get this out. So we have to support, and then we have to support because I think it inspires children. It will inspire kids. It will force us to take a look at the judicial system, which we have to change. So many reasons.
What resonates with you most about Brian and this story and everything that he's gone through? Because my God,
Brian's story is just one of resilience. So I'm astonished by his charisma at this point. There's no bitterness.
You're the second person you said there's no bitterness.
There's no bitterness. And I think that's a part of, to be able to walk with no bitterness after this level of such a miscarriage of justice, that's inspiring to other people that are going through things themselves right now.
Brian Banks debuts August 9th. This is a must-see film, so make sure you drop your ticket. Tanisha LaVerne Grant, BlackInAmerica.com.